frontier. This is Football Daft with Stephen Purden,
midfield dynamo and average actor,
Chris Toll,
target man, suspicious character,
and
Hey, the top end of Stevenson,
G4 Claims are our sponsors and we love them. If you've been in a road traffic accident and you're not at fault, then G4 Claims will make it easy for you. They're going to provide you with complete accident management support that you require. They'll recover their costs for that fault party, and they're going to sort you out a like-for-like vehicle replacement. They're also going to organise your vehicle to be repaired at one of their approved body shops, and it'll be sent back to you. Should your vehicle be deemed a write-off, they'll recover the pre-accident value for your motor and write you a big fat cheque. Best of all, it's not going to cost you a penny, as they charge the at-fault insurance direct. G4 Claims don't cold call, they don't buy data, and once they process your claim, your insurance will remain unscathed. And the best thing is, Nicole and the team are there. They will only take on your case if they don't think they can help. So, if you've been in a road traffic accident or know somebody that has, get on to G4 Claims on 01698 767 172. That's 01698 767 172. Get them at notatfaultclaim.com. That's notatfaultclaim.com, or find them on the social media at G4 Claims Limited. G4 Claims, not at fault claims.
Made easy.
Made easy. Now let's introduce a man that's made his name at Hibs with over 100 appearances for the club. He also played at Derby, Portsmouth, Leicester, Stoke and Dunfermline. Until recently, he was the manager of Albion Rovers. It's none other than Kevin Harper. How's it going, my man?
I'm all good, mate. You?
Good to see you, mate. Thanks for coming on the podcast. How's the lockdown been and everything else?
I think it's been the same as most everybody else, you know. Get 4 kids, so it's been a wee bit difficult for certainly the younger two. The older two, 20 and 13, 14, sorry, just turned 14. So they've been all good, up in their rooms on their phone as they would do. The younger ones, wee boy at 5's probably been the hardest. He's wanting to go out and see his pals and go out and play football and stuff. He's not really been allowed to.
Kevin, so who uncovered you? Who gave you your starting fit? Who signed you first?
It was a strange one, mate. To be fair, I grew up in Portsmouth, as probably everybody knows, and I was just out playing with my mate. It was about 10, and he's like, "Oh, I need to go to football training." And I was like, "Well, what have I to do?" And he's like, "I don't know." And I says, "Is it all right to come along with you?" And he says, "Aye." So I ended up walking for Portsmouth to Site Hill, play for the Celtic North, but just to be at St Stephen's. And that's how I got into it. Then, obviously, I went to sign for West Park for Bishop Briggs, and Alec Miller saw me. I was playing a tournament in Paisley, and his son was playing in the same tournament, and there was a bit of commotion going on the pitch that I was playing. Obviously, I was ripping it up, and he turned round and ended up watching my game, and that's how he asked me to sign for Hibs. Came up to Portsmouth, had a chat with me and my mum, went back down, and his car had been broken in and his stereo had been took.
I'm joking.
Did you know of a bit of time at Hutchie Vale as well?
When I was at Hibs, Alec Miller says I had to play for them, play for Hutchie Vale. But for me, Hutchie Vale, we were winning like 10-0 and stuff like that, so there wasn't really much. I think Alec Miller was just scared because I was coming to the end of my S form, in case any of the teams through here had wanted to snap me up.
When you were at Hibs, Kevin, you were playing with boys like Darren Jackson, Pat McGinley, Keith Wright, Kevin McAllister and that. Was it a bit of like an education for you, like a football and education?
I think when I went in, there was a lot of hype because there was this kid that was coming through the Hibs ranks, and when I got there, it was an eye opener. But as I say, it was just for me. I remember the first day Alec Miller shouted me over. I was training with the reserves and he shouted me over, and I went in, obviously running across. We were playing that. We were training at a rugby pitch at the time, and I remember him shouting us over and running over, really nervous. And then first bit of football we had, first bit of training, I ended up I think at slide had a straight legger with Graham Mitchell, the left back, and I think that was something that had to happen, because then they took it. They went, all right, this kid's for real. But I think learning for the players, the experienced players, Keith Wright was amazing. Even Kevin McAllister, Mickey Weir, Pat McGinley were excellent players. And I think we get probably a disservice done to that team, because if you ask Hibs supporters, they probably not even mention our team. But the attacking that we had in that team, as I say, myself, Tony Rougier was there, Keith Wright, Darren Jackson, Mike O'Neill, Pat McGinley, Mickey Weir.
Great players, man. Great players.
So we were really attacking side. But I think if you look at it and you ask, as I say, if you ask any Hibs fan, they probably wouldn't even mention our team, to be honest.
Kevin, you mentioned Kevin McAllister there. Now, I noticed that John's desk rose very slightly when you mentioned Kevin McAllister's name there. Did you learn a lot for Kevin McAllister? Because he is a genuine legend of Scottish football, isn't he? And what a player he was.
Yeah.
It must have been brilliant to be able to learn from him, man. He was
top draw crunch. He was quality, real quality on the ball, good at good crossing. And he's probably my height as well, So it was always good that sometimes I was taller than him, sometimes he was smaller than it. He was taller than me, so it depended who we wanted to be in the middle. I would stand on my tiptoes, so I was a bit taller than him. He had to go in the middle in the rondos, you know what I mean? So it was all good that way. But Crunchy was fantastic. Him and Mickey Weir, because they played the same sort of position. And I was just fortunate enough that I ended up taking over from they two players that are probably, as you say, Crunchy's a legend football, and Mickey's a legend for Hibs as well.
It's funny that you say that Hibs fans don't want to remember that team, right? But see that team that you've just mentioned there, that's a Hibs team I think, because we talk about fitness stickers on this podcast now and again, and that's the team I remember from my fitness sticker book. Was that yourself included, by the way? That whole team right there, that's the one I remember.
It's strange that, because as I say, the majority of Hibs fans I don't think would say that we were an attacking side, but when you look at the setup that we had, we had real attacking players in it. Do you know what I mean? And I think one of the seasons we finished third. It was the first time anybody had finished third didn't get into Europe. I think it might have been, not sure who won the league, but obviously Celtic or Rangers. And then it was Motherwell, and then it was us. So when we look at that, and everybody thought Alec Miller was a defensive manager. He wasn't. He was just very tactically aware. He set us up not to get beat, but we had the attacking flair to go and play and do what we wanted. And with players like Keith Wright, Darren Jackson, Mike O'Neill, myself, Pat McGinley and the team, Crunchy and Mickey when they were there. I think you just look at it and you go, that's a real attacking side.
Aye. What was Alec Miller like to work under? Do you have a good relationship with him, Kevin?
Yeah, I thought he was excellent. A lot of the other boys, a lot of the experienced boys, I don't think had much time for him, if I'm honest. But tactically, he was very tactically aware. He was really in depth in things, and as a kid, I always had something, an affiliation with Alec. I've got a lot of time for the guy. He's just a pure football guy. He's 100% football. I saw him when Hibs won the Scottish Cup, and he was like, I just go to games, any games that are on, I just go and watch them. It doesn't matter if it's the Premier League or the second division or juniors. He just loves football, and that's the way he's always been. But for me, he was excellent. He was excellent for me. Really, I really learned a lot from him.
So, Kevin, you became one of the first black players to be capped for Scotland at an international level. Was that a proud moment for you, or did you not even think about it, or was it a big thing for you?
It was a big thing for me. I didn't get a full cap, got under 21 cap, was on the bench for a full international, and that's probably the biggest regret that I have. Right. I think, when you're playing in the Championship, then when I was with Portsmouth, top of the league, playing with players like Paul Merson, Yakubu, Teddy Sheringham, Shaka Hislop, and not even getting a Scotland cap when people that I felt had less ability than me were playing, because they were playing in the Scottish Premier League is it probably the biggest disappointment for me. I think at that point they didn't think that the Championship was that good.
I remember when you first come through, but they were screaming for you to get put into the Scotland squad because you were like this new, exciting talent that nobody had nobody like myself or anything like that had heard of before he came into the Hibs team. And I remember the papers were all going mad asking for you to get put into the Scotland squad, and then you did get put into the 21s, but that must be quite a big regret for the manager as well, not giving you your first full international cap.
I think if I look back in my career, I think I deserved at least one Scotland cap. You know, when I look at some of the players that have got 25 and 15, 25 caps, and at the end of the day, they played in the Premier League. Some of them played for Celtic, some of them played for Rangers, others just played in the Premier League in Scotland. I think the SFA at times didn't venture past, Dumfries. At that point, they just looked at people in the Premier League, and for me to be playing, as I say, playing in the Championship in England, to get in the top of the league, playing week in, week out, and not getting a Scotland cap, even later in my career, is disappointing. But I think at the start of my career, I think I probably deserved a cap. But, at the end of the day, the managers decided different, and that's their choice.
Who was the managers when you were playing in the Championship? Who was the Scotland manager at the time?
Bertie Volks was the Scotland manager at the time.
Aye.
Yeah, he was. And when I broke through, Craig Brown was the manager.
Have you ever spoken to Craig Brown about it? Have you ever came across him and mentioned it to him?
No, I've not spoke to him about it. I've not seen him in honesty. But I think in fairness to Craig Brown, he's the stats wise, he's the best Scotland manager ever. And I think the players that he picked, done us a fantastic service. He's the last manager to take us to a Euro or a World Cup. So you have to take your hat. You have to take your hat off to the guy. And at the end of the day, his decision. I've got no issue with that. That was his decision. But I felt that I probably deserved, as I say, at least a Scottish cap. But that is what it is.
But back to your time at Hibs, Kevin. What when you look back on your time at Hibs, what's your highlight of your time there? Your career highlight at Hibs?
I think I've got a few. If I'm honest, I think making my debut up at St Johnstone was, as a 7-year-old, bench and coming on was fantastic. Because never in my wildest dreams did I think I would be a professional footballer. I loved to play football. I didn't think at 17 I would make my debut in the Premier League. And then the following season scored my first goal in my first start. My first goal at Easter Road was against Dundee United when we won 5-0. And then probably scoring the winner against Rangers, ironically. That sort of took me from, just a known kid into being known right across Scotland, really. It catapulted me like nothing you would believe. And then probably the final one was scoring the winner against Hearts on New Year's Day, after we had, because that was like 2 days after we had get beat 7-0 off Rangers.
That was the coldest day ever, by the way, that game. See that 7-0 game? That was the coldest.
That's not a game that Gaza got booked for booting your ref?
Aye. Mate, that was, you're right, it was Baltic, man. I remember that.
The reason Jury scored 4 goals, didn't he? And you're right.
I'm not sure. Because I know, all I know was I was a sub and came on at half time at 2-0 and changed the game. We were 2-0 down when I came on, we changed the game.
Good word, man. What was Edinburgh Derby's like, Kevin? What was see when you got there? Did they tell you about the Edinburgh Derby, or did you know? Obviously you've supported Fitba, but how serious do they take it? Obviously,
they take it really serious, and I think got to remember we were in a run of not winning any derbies. So my first derby at time, my first ever derby was at Tynecastle when we broke the hoodoo at 20 odd games of no winning. So I was fortunate enough. The first 3 derbies were wins. We were undefeated in 3, which was a big thing considering we went through that amount of time. But for me, I lived in Glasgow, so you know the pressure of it through the players through there. But you're sort of a wee bit detached from it in essence. You know how important it is, but you also there's no really any pressure because I was just a kid. I was only 17, 18 at the time, so for me it was just another game. But other players that were older and more experienced and had been through maybe 10 games against Hearts and hadn't won was big pressure. But you always knew it was pressure. But for me it was another game. Yeah, you wanted to win over your city rivals, really. And I was fortunate enough to play in a lot of games where we did win and I scored important goals in them, which is always good.
I hear there's you hear the Old Firm games and you hear players in the dressing room can basically do the team talk instead of the manager. Was there any Hibs players that would go right boys, the day this is what it's all about? Any players that stood out really they took it so seriously?
I think your Pat McGinley's, your John Hughes when he was there, Gordon Hunter, these boys, Willie Miller, were bang on at Darren Jackson as well. You know, Keith Wright was a big one as well. Keith didn't say much, but you know, you certainly heard them at Derby games. But they were the group that really, you know, they had went through a lot, you know, in the sense of that run. So they were the ones that were speaking up, and they were the ones that were probably the most nervous as well, because you know, the majority of them lived in Edinburgh, got it tight from everybody, you know, whereas for me, you know, went to the game and then I could retreat to Glasgow almost. You know, I wasn't in the heart and soul of it, but you know, it was really, really intense. You know, you just the noise, the atmosphere is incredible.
Love it, man. Would love to score a goal in a derby, man.
I think it'd just be some feeling scoring a goal, even in training.
No, it's when you're Derby, you know, that's what you want. You want a local derby. You want to be the hero of a local derby game, and you know, fortunately enough, New Year's Day against your rivals, scoring the winner. You know, I don't think it gets much better for that in a footballing sense. You know, obviously winning leagues and stuff is fantastic, but scoring the winner in a New Year's Day will never be forgotten.
But you're still 17 at the time, Kev.
I think it was 18 or 19. I think it was.
You could go out for a beer then, at least.
Aye.
So listen, mate, you then moved down to Derby to play in the Premier League. What was it like? What was the difference like going from the Scottish Premier League down to the English Premier League?
The biggest thing that I found was when I was up here, I was really, really quick. I was probably one of the quickest players, you know, up here. When I went down there, I was just quick. You know, and I think that was the biggest thing that I found. I remember my first day and getting into the training ground. You know, I couldn't drive, so I was getting a lift for Pat McGinley, and he used to drive a wee Yugo. He used to just to get miles on it. So he used to drive us in, and then I went in the changing room into the car park at Derby, and there's Aston Martins, Ferraris, you know, Audi A8 V12s, you know, all different stuff, going crazy. You know, and that was the biggest difference. The training ground, we had massage chairs where we just sat before the game, before training. You know, we had 15 minutes on the massage chairs, and then when we went out, they had a 7-a-side pitch that they only used on a Friday. You know, so the biggest thing for me that I noticed was the whole professionalism of it. Mm-hmm. You know, the own training ground, the specialists that were in looking after you, the sports therapist, you know, the sports scientist was just coming in at that time. So it was a whole different concept of, you know, training. But going down there, I think for probably the first wee while, I was like, am I good enough to be here? You know, probably I was away from home, all emotions going through. But you know, after probably the first month, I was like, you know what? Yeah, I definitely deserve to be here. And unfortunately, I didn't get enough game time at that time. But I worked under Jim Smith and Steve McLaren and Steve Brown, who's the assistant with Michael Arteta at Arsenal. You know, and they were. I learned so much about them, and I take a lot of that stuff that I learned there into my coaching.
Kev, how far do you think Rory Delap could throw me?
Oh, I don't know. You're a bit heavier than the football, so I don't know as far.
Aye, you're fucking right, yes.
No anymore, graduates. Drop them off me, son. Drop them off me.
Here, Kevin, who was? See, you're talking about the motors, right? See, you're talking about the motors. Who had the tidiest motor, and did you eventually manage to buy a tidy motor yourself when you were down there?
Lars Bohinen had the F1 Spider.
Oh,
so he did the F1 Spider, so it was unbelievable. When I went down there, I had one of the first Lotus Elise convertibles.
Aye.
So I just got one of them.
Still got it?
Like, no, I've got a bit, mate.
He's got 4 lanes, Grado. He's got a Kia Sportage.
Take the 4 lanes out in the Lotus. Like, you wait here, I'll be back in a minute.
4 journeys to school.
Kevin, tell us about Jim Smith, man. He must have been a character. What was he like? Jim
Smith was brilliant. You know, I was in his office probably every other month just asking why I'm not playing and stuff, but he was great. He was great. You know, he was a man management. He was really old school in the sense that you probably didn't really see him. You saw him on a Monday maybe, and then giving you a wee bit of banter, and then you didn't see him till the Thursday. when he came out, and we were doing preparation for the game on a Saturday. Then he would come out and you would just hear his voice bellowing across because they still had the baseball ground at the time, because they had moved into Pride Park, so they still had the baseball ground, and you know, you just hear him bellowing, this and that, you know. But banter wise, motivational wise, was excellent, because I remember, I'll no name the player, but I remember my first game there was away to Villa, and in the change room, I'm on the bench, so we come in, it's 0-0 at half time, and he's having a pop at this player, and the player just gets up, takes his top off, and walks into the shower. And he's like, I'm not going out of the second half. And I'm like, what the heck's going on here, man? I'm in the Premier League. I've never ever saw this before. And then Steve McLaren's in the change in the shower saying, right, hurry up, get out, get your stuff on. Gets his stuff on, and then Jim says, right, go out and do better this half. And that was it. You know, so he would give you, but he would also be, you know, as soon as he gave you that was it, done and dusted. But as a guy, obviously, God rest him, he's passed away now, is unbelievable, man.
He was a character, wasn't he? He was along the same lines as like your Harry Redknapp and all. He's like one of the kind of characters. And you worked under Harry Redknapp as well at Portsmouth. So what was that? Must have been somebody.
Ironically, Jim Smith was his assistant at Portsmouth. Jim Smith was Harry's. So obviously, when Jim came in, Harry took over. Graham Ricks was the manager, and then Harry, Milan manager, brought Harry in as like the director of football, and we pretty much had a fair idea that he was going to end up becoming the manager. And I've saw Paul Merson say that Harry's probably the best manager he's ever worked with, and I would second that 100%. You know, Harry made you feel as if you were the best player on the planet, you know, and you could go out and you could do whatever you wanted. And, you know, Harry wasn't big on tactics. You know, we had a wee bit when we were in when we were championship, when we won the championship, we were the best side by a country mile. So if another team had scored 3 goals, you would score 4 goals. That was no problem at all. That was the way that we felt it was 100% going. But Harry, just awareness of football tactically, it was so good. We didn't do a lot of shape, but just tactically aware, he was really, really at it. And the thing about Harry is he builds really, really good teams. You know, and he, you know, our team that he built there was we were mid-table, and then Harry came in. As soon as Harry took over, he kept us in the league mid-table, and then we won the league the next year with a canter. And the players that he brought in, the contacts he had were second to none. But as a man manager, it was fantastic. It was fantastic. I wasn't even in the squad for the first 2 or 3 games, you know, and then ended up playing 40 games. But I think you have to take your hat off to Milan Mandzukic as well, because he bankrolled. You know, he brought in these players and Harry's went and said, listen, I need this, and Harry and Milan's went, right, that's fine. You know, and I was fortunate enough, I was only one of probably 3 or 4 players for the previous season that stayed and played, which was great. And to have a play where I played and have a championship medal from Portsmouth getting promoted, you know, and that's the biggest disappointment. You know, you get promoted to the Premier League in England, but you don't get the Scotland manager doesn't feel that you're good enough to get a Scotland cap.
Why, that is
bizarre.
Easy, man.
Obviously, this will obviously have crossed your mind before with regards to that. Do you think the fact that you're black played any part in that?
So I think probably, you know, if I go back on it and I look at some of the things that I've said about the SFA in my early career, that probably went against me. But that was due to getting racism and them sweeping it under the carpet. You know, so is it? Am I going to say I didn't get a Scotland cap because I was black? No, I'm not, because they gave Nigel Quasi a Scotland cap. He was black. You know, just probably the following year, I think. You know, so I would hate to think that was the case. You know, but I think having been outspoken about it was maybe a thing, because if I certainly look at the players when I was playing that got caps, you know, and got 15 to 20 caps. I'm not being big-headed, but I think I was better than most of them. But,
do you know what? See, the fact that you're talking about it, I couldn't name any of them, and that tells you all you need to know. You know what I mean? Like, when you think about it, you definitely were playing at a higher level than most of them, and to a higher standard yourself than most of them. So, you know, it's maybe just the whole stunted we're in Scotland, we're in this goldfish.
I think that's what it is. I think that's what it was, because I think when I was certainly in the squads, I was in a couple of squads, the players are going, certain players are coming up to me and going, listen, Kevin, I can't believe you're not even in the team. The way that you've been training, you're head and shoulders above majority is here, and you're not even in the squad. So, for me, that's big. Your fellow peers saying that about you is a massive thing, But at the end of the day, it is what it is. I've got no regrets on it. Yeah, I'm disappointed that I didn't get a Scotland cap, but at the end of the day, you can only piss with the cock you've got.
But you do hear that, like, you've heard of, remember, as back a couple of years ago, John Fleck was storming it down south, and he got a cap. It happens now and again, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I think that's the same with him. He's been outspoken as well.
Right.
He was the great big hype after, because he was Flecky's, cousin or something. But he was at Rangers. He was going to do this, and he's had to go down to England to probably a better league and show his credentials, because we probably didn't really appreciate it up here. And that's the thing. Sometimes I think we don't appreciate what we've got until it's away. It's a wee bit like Charlie Adam as well. He didn't play at Rangers. Had to go down south, and then he's been night and day. And it's MacArthur. They're still doing it just now. So you look at it in that sense. We've had really, really good players. Well, the prime example is Andy Robertson in it. He's a prime example for absolutely everything. Gets thrown out of Celtic because he's too small, goes to Queen's Park, nearly chucking the game, and now he's just laughing at everybody, going, "I've got so much medals that you can't even." I think the league champions, Champions League, world champions, can probably champions at everything else. So so it's, you look at it that way and you go, sometimes we don't see what we've got. I think that's probably.
Did you ever come across that, because you were tiny? You were wee compared to a lot of the big.
Yeah.
Scottish football was basically just a big bunch of barbarians fighting at one point, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So you come in and you had this speed, and you were small. So it gives hope for me and Stephen that eventually we will get there.
I think that's the thing. I think for me, I was a bit bulky. I was broad shoulders and stuff. Although I was small, I was still physically I was pretty big, and I had pace, so I could run away from most people. So that was always a good thing. You know what I mean?
That's me, man. Growing up in East End of Glasgow, tiny, but I could run like anybody.
Well, being a black kid growing up in Postle, you had to be able to run.
So, Kevin, tell us about Robert Prosinecki, man. What was he like?
Words will not do the guy justice. I think for me, he was the best player, head and shoulders, that I've ever played with. Played in the same team as. His footwork, his ability on the ball, he's just everything about him. I was quite happy doing his running for him as well. I was quite happy in that team, just giving him the ball and doing his running for him, because you knew when he got the ball, something was going to happen. I think the biggest thing for me was I wasn't good enough to play with him in his prime. I think if in his prime he would be absolutely sensational, and he probably didn't have as much of an impact as Paul Merson did at Portsmouth, but hand on heart, being the best player, he was the best player that I've ever played with. He could do things with a ball that it just showed me how the upper reaches of football, how they players are, and how they work, and the ability and how they see things was just like head and shoulders above anybody else. Because I remember one game I was running down the line, I was like, Robbie, and he just passed it somewhere else, and he came in at half time and he just went like, Kevin, don't shout, I see you, and just done that with his eye, pointed to his eyes like that, I see you. I was like, all right, Robbie, fair dues, I'll not shout you again.
No, but I remember Celtic drew Croatia Zagreb, right, in a Champions League qualifier, and he was playing for them. And that's the first time I ever remember really being absolutely overwhelmed by a player's performance, right? there was a lot of rumours went about, right, that he threw a fag away running out onto the pitch.
Oh, aye, totally, aye.
Did he used to smoke in the dressing room?
Oh,
Aye?
not in his dressing room. He used to go outside the dressing room and smoke all the time. Aye,
Aye.
must have 40 fags easy. He was just constant chain smoker. But
No wonder he never ran out the centre circle.
no. But as a player, he was head and shoulders above anything that I've ever played with in my career.
That's amazing.
Tremendous.
Kevin, you had a couple of loan spells.
Yep.
Leicester, Norwich, but then you ended up at Stoke with Tony Pulis. But you had an injury there. How did that affect you?
It was difficult. It was a difficult time, to be fair, when I was at Stoke, because when Tony came and bought me, I knew what I was getting into. He had bought me at Portsmouth. I really liked Tony. Still speak to Tony to this day. And for me, I get injury after injury. I had calf injury, dislocated my shoulder, came back for a dislocated shoulder, had a hernia operation, and it was just really, really difficult to come back with. I think my mindset was not in the right place when I was there, but just purely because of the injuries. And it was difficult. I was training well, but by that time I was training well, but I was playing the reserves and I was given 100% in reserves. But I just sort of knew that I was never going to get back in the team, just because I think the manager couldn't trust that I would last 100%. You know, and that was it. You know, and I've got no issue with that. I totally get that. But that was just a real difficult time for me, mentally and physically.
Did you have a family? Did you have a family in there, Kevin, or
no? No, they were up here at the time. Yeah.
So you really were basically down there yourself, or did you move back up here, or so you're down there?
I was down there, and I used to commute. I used to commute every sort of Tuesday. If we never had a reserve game on a Tuesday, then I would commute up if I was off on the Wednesday. Or sometimes if we were playing maybe up north, I would ask the manager if I could take the car on a Saturday or get somebody to drive the car up to the game and then just head up. And Tony Pulis was great that way. I think he understood where I was at that time. You know, and then he left the club, then came back, and I was buzzing that he had come back, and then he just went a different way. He felt that I wasn't in his plans, and that's when I ended up going. I went on loan to Carlisle and done well there, and then got injured again. So, you know, it was just that day. 3 years at Stoke was a difficult time, and just injury after injury, to be fair.
So then you came back up the road to Dunfermline.
Yeah.
Did you go into Europe with them?
Yeah, we did. You did. That was ironically my first ever time in Europe with Dunfermline. I had never been in Europe before. Stephen Kenny signed me. I had options to stay down in England, but they were only like a year's contract, whereas Dunfermline had offered me a 2 year. So I felt security wise it was better. Worked under Stephen Kenny. We had a really good side, but I think we didn't start the best. The first I think first 7 games I don't think we won a game. And we should have, you know. And then it was a mental thing of we're not going to get relegated, but we're not going to win the league. So, you know, I think it was difficult to get into that point. And then the second season, I done my knee. I was over in Spain, and I was just looking out a window and went to turn right and done my knee, and that's how I had to retire. So.
Oh,
Jesus Christ, that's
nasty, man. That's nasty.
So.
Right, Kevin, then let's talk about your time management at Albion Rovers. Right, you saved them for relegation this season there. So, what made you step away?
They offered me a contract that I felt was a wee bit disrespectful. It wasn't what I was on at the present moment in time. You know, at that moment in time, there was a few things that happened in the season prior, behind the scenes, that I didn't feel that they were 100% honest, in the sense that things that were going to happen, you know, after what I had done the previous season. I wasn't saying that I was untouchable, but I think, you know, what I had done the previous season should have got me more leeway than what it did, in a sense. You know, they were paranoid about the Lowland League teams, but I think if you look at our stats last year after 26 games compared to the previous year, you know, every single one of them is better. We were on 10 points after 26 games. You know, we finished with 24, and we had 24 this season after 26 games. We had scored more goals, we had conceded more, we had conceded less. You know, so for me, I thought we were going in the right direction. You know, but you know, I chose to step away because I didn't think that they were going in the right direction that I wanted to go in.
Right.
Is that no team you support, though?
I'm a Coatbridge guy myself, Kevin. And
I love this bit.
Can you shut your fucking face, you? sorry, the Wayne's here, and I'm swearing. I apologise. Right,
That's the Wayne there, mate. Come
That's
on.
all right. I think she's sleeping.
Disgusting.
Apologies.
That's all right.
Right, and when you left the Rovers on social media, there was quite a lot of support for you for the Albion Rovers fan base, and even a local MSP actually came out and says, "What the fuck's going on here?" Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Phil
Langley.
McGregor. Oh, sorry again. Jeez.
It's all right, mate. It's all right. Don't worry about it.
Right, so hang me. Sorry, I apologise. Right, so do you know? See, looking back at it now and what's happened since then with the COVID and all that, your contract might have only been able to offer you a lesser contract after that. Anyway, have you thought about that? Like, or have you had any possible word about maybe the next job or your next role in football yet?
No, not at the moment, mate. Not at the moment. As I say, things are different. You know, that things are different. We just know now that when football's going back, you know, clubs will be under pressure because there's only a 27-game season.
Yeah.
You know, there'll be promotion and relegation, I'm pretty sure, this year. You know, but for me, it was my decision. You know, it was my decision. I felt after the stuff that had happened in the season that I probably wouldn't have renewed my contract, even if they had offered me one, which they did, just purely because the trust had gone for me. You know, and for me, if trust is gone, then where do you go with it? You know, you have to have complete and utter trust with the board that you're doing the right thing. You know, and for me, I took the club, made the club more professional, probably saved the club for oblivion. You know, if I'm honest, by staying up that season. You know, but at the end of the day, that's a decision that I made. You know, I wish the club all the best, and I'll certainly go back and I'll watch the games. You know, and there's a lot of good people at the club. You know, and I'm thankful for them giving me the opportunity that I got. You know, because it's well documented. I had applied for 40 plus jobs and get one interview, and that was the Albion Rovers job interview that I got. You know, and there was other clubs that, you know, I had applied for. One get back to me saying, "Oh, we're going with experience," and brought a junior manager in. You know, so for me, it was. I don't know how that's more experience, but at the end of the day, you know, I done my job at Albion Rovers. I done it well. I've saved the club. If that's my last job, then I can look back in it and say, you know what, it was a job well done. Saved a club from oblivion, kept them in the league with the lowest budget. Then it's up to them now. You know where they want to go with it.
How hard is that league to manage, and Kevin?
It's difficult when you've got the budget that we had, you know, because you look at Kelty, you look at Cove Rangers, you know, their two strikers' wage bill is probably our whole team's wage bill in a year. You know, so when you look at it that way, you have to. We were fortunate enough for what we'd done the previous year that we were able to go and get some players that believed in me as a manager and what we had done, and word of mouth spread. You know, and we brought some players in, you know, that were going to enhance the team, which they did. You know, we were a bit unfortunate with injuries. You know, at one time, I remember playing at Cove, we had a left back playing at centre half, a left midfielder playing at left back, a left back playing at right back, and one centre half against the top team. You know, so. In that time, we had about 8 injuries, and that's a time that all the behind the scenes stuff started happening. That the trust was lost in. You know, when we had the injuries. So, you know, at the end of the day, you know, as I say, I'm a realist. You know, could we have done better? Yeah, we could have. Did we do better? Yeah, we did. You know, but at the end of the day, my time was up there. I felt as if I'd done a good job there. You know, and good luck to the next manager that's in.
See, I don't know if I've asked a manager this before, right? And if I did, I can't remember the answer, right? But see, when you're applying to be a manager, how do you do it? Do you send it? Do you find out their address on Google, write a letter? What do you do? Just good at good working within a team.
It comes up. You see it sometimes in the paper. You see it. You get an email saying that this job's up for. You know, send your CV in. You know, you send your CV in, but the majority of times the chairman's probably of the board have got somebody in mind.
Aye, already.
You know, already. So it's difficult. You know, but you know, fortunately enough, Albion Rovers were so far off the bottom, so far at the bottom of the table that, you know, there wasn't many big names going in for the job, you know, and I was fortunate enough that, you know, they interviewed me, and that's all I can ask for. When you put your CV into a job, you just want an interview, you know, because at the end of the day, you have to prove to them in that interview that you're the best man for the job. And fortunately enough, they felt that I was the best man for the job, and it worked out that I was the best man for the job. And the publicity they got for having the first black manager in 15 years in Scotland was incredible. You know, Sky Sports came up, you know, the amount of publicity they had in the papers and the TV, you know, but at the end of the day, I still have got to do a job. There's no point in appointing. They didn't appoint me because I was black. They appointed me, you know, because they felt that I was the best manager for the job. And that's what happened.
See how you said you applied for 40 jobs. What was the biggest club you sent your CV to? You got to tell us.
I'll not tell you, but there was teams in the top division in Scotland. You know, not all. It wasn't all managers' jobs. It was under 18 managers. It was under 23s. So you know, there was lots of jobs across the board that I had applied for and got one interview. You know, and I think it's been well documented. You know, I think for me that I'm probably better. I know that I'm better qualified than some of the people that got the jobs. Probably half the people that got the jobs. So
that must stick in your craw right enough, man. It really must. That must be a pain in the arse.
I think it was for.
Sorry. Oh no, I just said arse. Arse is all right.
Arse is all right then, aye.
If it wasn't for my missus, my kids, I wouldn't have kept going. And that's the biggest compliment I can give them, because my missus was like, "Oh, you've got too much to offer," and the kids were like, "Dad, you can't stop there now. You know, you're on a journey that you've got so much to offer. We see you doing stuff with, you know, your coaching stuff. So you have to give it. You have to keep going. You will get something eventually, but it's difficult after 40 knockbacks. You know, just going, yeah, I'm going to go again. But you know, that's the way it is. I just hope it doesn't take me 40 times to get back in if I do get back in.
Tell you this one, we had Kenny Duker on the show a few weeks back, and he sent his CV and a highlight reel package to Barcelona, and they get back to him.
Wow. That's better. That's better than sort of the majority of the clubs. I get out of the 40 plus roles, I got 3 replies, and one was for Albion Rovers.
The rest is history, my man.
I know, mate. I know. As they say.
So every week here, we do this a 90-second quiz.
Right. Okay.
And we've got some belting names on the list. Honestly, the top of the list is Mark Wilson. Then, funnily enough, we've got Kenny Duker. Mark's on 14, Kenny's on 13.
Yeah.
Barry Ferguson and Owen Coyle on 12. And we need to make a correction actually after the football daft VAR was brought out last week. Jonathan Watson, he actually scored 9, and right. I think John told him that he'd scored 10. Am I right?
What? No. He scored 8, but there was, I think one of the question was who plays in the Tyne Tees Derby, and of course it was Middlesbrough and Newcastle that Jonathan said, because I was thinking of the Tyne Weir Derby, so that is an extra point for Jonathan. So
again, John, what did you do wrong?
I got the question wrong, Grado.
What did you ask? Again, I remember this.
We asked Jonathan who plays in the Tyne Tees Derby. He said Newcastle and Middlesbrough, and I said it was wrong because I was getting mixed up with the Tyne Weir Derby, which is, of course, Newcastle, Sunderland.
We watch that, John.
I know.
Watch it,
mate. Got to watch it.
What the hell? Anyway, how do you think you'll do?
Rubbish.
Ask you the question.
What you need to do not to be the bottom of the league is get 2 right answers, right? Because David McCracken, he only got 1 right answer, the Falkirk manager.
Okay, if I can beat Cracks, then I'm fine.
Really?
Right, so who's asking the? I think it's actually me asking the question. Right, so John, we'll get 90 seconds on the clock.
We do indeed.
Right, and your time starts now. What 2 teams play in the Super Clásico?
Atletico Madrid, Real Madrid.
Name one of the teams left in the Scottish Cup.
Celtic.
What club did Celtic sign keeper Vasilios Barkas from?
Pass.
How many can he pass?
Can he pass? Everton.
How many under 21 caps did you get?
7.
Who did Dundee United play in the first game of the season?
They played St Johnstone.
Livingston turned down a $1 million bid for Lyndon Dykes from which club?
Barnsley.
What musical instrument is in the Hibs badge?
A harp.
Who currently sits top of the Scottish Premier League?
Celtic.
How many goals did you score for Walsall?
4.
Celtic target Stephen Fletcher has left which club?
Sheffield Wednesday.
What is the name of the Cove
Sheffield
Rangers
United.
ground?
Cove Rangers, don't know.
How do Man City face in the Champions League this week?
Real Madrid.
What nationality is Hibs midfielder Melker Helberg?
Norwegian.
Who did you score your Scotland hat trick against?
Finland.
New Rangers signing Kamar Roof played for which English club?
Leeds.
Dougie the Dunhammer is a mascot of which Scottish club?
Queen of the South.
Hearts Aaron Hickey could be on his way to which German club?
Bayern Munich.
In what year were Hibs formed?
18...
Time!
Oh!
Right, no, you're allowed to answer.
1882.
Yeah, can I just say, see with a Wayne on his knee and the Wayne ready to get a bit good. How good did he do there, man?
I was getting a wee buzz when he was answering them there.
Kev, we see after that we only had one question left, and we never get through all the questions. Never once.
That's because I had all the wrong answers.
Yeah,
Right.
I hope you've done well, mate, so you can put it in your CV.
Right, we've got the answers. The results are in,
Oof.
and it's pretty good.
That's always good.
Let's go through the wrong answers because there's going to be one that's going to set off here as per usual. Right, so the teams that play in the Super Classico, obviously the El Clasico is Madrid and the Madrid teams, but the Super Classico is River Plate and Boca Juniors in Argentina. Barca signed from Celtic from AEK Athens. Hibs midfielder Melker Hallberg is Swedish. And you'll be gutted at this one, Kevin. Hibs were formed in 1875.
Right.
You looked at the badge a bit more often, mate. You obviously
Done in 80, mate. Done in 80.
You obviously weren't a badge kisser.
Nah.
Well, wait a minute, John, because he knew what musical instrument was on the badge. So
That's true.
That was a good guess, though.
We're going to come back to this one, right? How many goals did you score for Walsall when you were alone there? I have got written down here 1.
John, you need to stop asking this question.
I know, you fucking...
Wikipedia is letting me down here.
I'm sure I scored. Mind I was twice at Walsall. I was alone twice at Walsall.
Oh,
Right, okay.
You've got to game it.
Got to get. We've given the
everybody else it.
We've given the benefit of the doubt to everyone, so that makes a big difference. Makes a big difference.
That must take me to the top of the league.
Kevin Harper is our new leader.
Get in there! Oh! Buzzing.
I tell you what, I'm not blowing my own trumpet, but I was going through the questions like a dose of fucking salt, sir. Oh, sorry, I'm swearing again.
It's all right. The Wayne's aren't here anymore.
Yeah, and that's brilliant.
Well done, Kevin, mate. Well done.
Well done, mate. That's
Cheers,
brilliant.
guys.
Right, Who Knows Wins is back on Football Daft. It's the app that allows you to put your money where your mates are. Remember that, Troops? Who Knows Wins, remember?
Aye, before the old COVID, that was good fun.
Aye. If you don't know what it is, Who Knows Wins is the social sports game where mates, family and colleagues pit their wits for real money and, of course, bragging rights. You can download the free app to play directly against your pals in our own custom league or join one of their existing competitions. They will send you live updates as the games go on, and you also get to wind up your mates in the group chat. Choose from football, rugby, horse racing and tennis, or combine any of the sports in your league. Make your predictions on the outcomes of your chosen fixtures, and for every result you guess correctly, you get a point in your league. At the end of the competition, whoever gets the most points wins and proves they are the top dog. Whether it's the cost of a round or something more substantial, choose your own entry fee and split the winner's pot as you see fit. But when it comes to the bragging rights, the winner takes all. And you can get involved with our very own SPFL Football Daft League now. There's a £5 entry and you can take us on with the winner taking all. So this week's fixtures are St Johnstone v Aberdeen. What do you think of that, Troops?
I don't think it'll happen. Don't see many goals.
Null and void.
Null and void for that one.
I think that as well. Right, Hamilton Academical versus Ross County with young troops.
Ross County, convincingly.
I'm going to go for Brian Rice's men. I know Ross County done well, but I think Hamilton are going to surprise you.
Draw.
I'm going for that.
Based on absolutely fuck all.
I'm going for the Ackies 0, Ross County 2. I'm going for that. Defo, man. Livy Hibs.
Draw.
Sorry. This is...
What'd you agree, though?
Okay, so the Livingston Hibs game, I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw.
Right, I'm going to go for a draw there as well, but I don't know where it'll be. A draw. Motherwell, Dundee United, I'm going for Motherwell to get back to winning ways. 2-0.
I'm going to say draw for this one as well.
I'm going to say draw for this one as well.
Rangers St Mirren, I'm going to go Rangers 2-0.
I'm going to go Rangers 4-1.
Well, I'm going to defer my decision on this one because with everything that's happened with Rangers playing Aberdeen last week, we might not see the game. But if the game does happen, I'm going to say Rangers 4, St Mirren 0.
Kilmarnock Celtic on Sunday as well.
2 each. No, Celtic will win. It'll be harder than last week, but I think we've got enough to get through the game. All depends on what kind of nick-up pitch is in.
I'm going to go for 3-0 Celtic.
3-0? Right. I'll go 2-1 Celtic.
I think it'll be closer than you would imagine, to be honest.
Right, so get involved in our league right now by downloading the app on Google Play and the Apple App Store. Who knows wins? Put your money where your mates are.
Audio Frontier.